Hey guys, so in the previous video we have created some attributes. So in this video what I want to do is when the player levels up, he will get some attribute points and then we can assign them where we actually want them, to which stat. So I don't know if you remember, but long time ago we have made a function that is called level up for leveling up crafting. But it basically can be used for player level as well because it takes the experience stat, which is saved in stats, and also leveling stats. So where we're gaining the experience and which stat we are actually leveling. So at the moment we're using it for experience stat, which is crafting experience, and leveling stat is crafting level. So we do have one created for just regular experience. So if you go to stats components on the player, I believe you should have already stat experience. At the moment it's 0 out of 0. I'm going to change it to like 0 out of 50. So basically we currently have 0 experience and we need 50 to level up. But we don't have a leveling stat because we don't have player level anywhere. So what we need to do is create it. So let's go to enums, open stats, and here we're just going to add new one, and this one will be player level. Save it, and then let's add it to the player blueprint. So on the stats component, we'll add new one, and this one will be player level, and we will set it to 1. So currently we have 1, and maximum, I don't know what maximum level you want to have. I'll do something like 50 for now. So we currently at 1 and we can reach 50. And then, as I said, we do have this level up function, so we will just need to pass some experience to it. But what I want to do is in the end here, so here first we're checking, just to recap, we're checking if we are currently on maximum level, on max level, and if we are, we're just resetting the experience to 0 and we're not leveling up or anything because we have reached maximum level. But then it goes to this branch where it's actually just adding the experience, and if the experience are greater or equal the one of the maximum stat, so the experience that we need, it will level up. So it will go to level up function, otherwise it will just modify the experience. So if it levels up, here in the end, it also changes the maximum experience we need for the next level by 20%. That's this 1.2. Okay, so every time we level up, experience needed are increased by 20%, which is pretty standard in the games. That's how you have it. Then in the end, what we want to do is we want to get this leveling stat, which is the input from the function. And we're going to check if this is equals enumerator and equals player level. And if it does, I'm just going to put print string here so we can see when we level up. And this one will be leveled up. That is just for testing, you don't have to do it. So leveled up, and then we will have to get some attributes. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to have this function in the player because it's quite hard to access from everywhere else. It's better if you have it in the component. So what we're going to do first is we're going to transfer this function to the stats component because that's where it should be anyway. Lots of these things are just stats, everything is stats. So let's find it again. I don't know where I put it, level up. Select it, copy, not the name, but the actual function. Keep selecting the name. So function, go to stats component so we can edit and paste it here. And then all you have to do is just delete this stat component reference because we have all these functions here. So the reference is basically the target. So stats component, delete all of this. Compile and save. Should give you no errors. But one thing is we are using that player one in the crafting. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on it, find references by name and all. And I don't want to search for it manually, so obviously this is going to find it for us. And then this one is in the stats component, that's fine. This one is in a player, this one is in an upgrade widget actually. So double click, open it up, and here, as you can see, we're getting it from the player reference. Since we have a player reference, we can get component directly. So just search for level up from stats component. and then just hold Control, connect the output, Control, and connect the input, experience, and here we got crafting experience and crafting level. So change it to crafting experience and crafting level, and then we can delete this and just put it here. Same thing exactly as it was before, except for now we're getting it from stats component. Compile, and then let's go to search again, and the second one was in a crafting. So same thing here, we just need to search for level up, stats component, and connect the experience, connect the output, the input, crafting level, crafting experience, and crafting level. So crafting experience and crafting level, and then connect it back as it was. Compile and save, and now we can just go to player and delete this function from here. And if you play the game, there should be no compiler errors or anything. It seems to be working fine. Okay, so we move this function. Now let's finish it up. So let's go back to stats component. We can close stats enumerator and crafting and upgrade. And in this level up, in the end, I want to create a new variable. Which one will be attribute points, type integer, and we're going to get it, add to it, and this is how many attributes we want to add. I'll just add 3. I do have only 3, strength, intelligence, and dexterity, so I'll just add 3 attributes. That makes sense to me. So if you want to change it, that's up to you. And then we'll set it as well. So this will be the attribute points we have to spend. And then for later, I'm just going to create one more variable, which will be assigned attributes, or we can call it, yeah, assigned attributes. Those one will be, this will just be counting how many attributes we are currently assigning with like the widgets that we're going to create. Because just in case there will be a reset button that will reset the attributes you assigned, and then we need to know how many we actually assigned, otherwise we won't know how many attributes we spent, and so on. It will make sense in a second. So for now, assigned attributes, and then we can also create the event dispatcher now, which will basically tell us that we are changing the attributes, because we will be doing this. We will be doing the changing attributes in 2 different widgets. One will be in the inventory, and then we will have like the separate counter widget. So that's why we will have to do event dispatcher. So let's create one, and this one will be on attribute updated. And for this, we will have to, instead of creating 3 different event dispatchers that we would technically need, because we will have a button that will reset the assigned attributes, that will commit all the attribute points we have spent, like we have assigned, and one also just to count how many we spend and so on. So we would have to create 3 different event dispatchers. So instead, I'm going to create enum and pass on this enum to this event dispatcher. So let's go to enums, right click, go to blueprints, and create new enumeration, and this one will be attribute update type or something underscore enumerator. And here we're going to do change, so we're just changing the number. Second one will be commit, where we actually commit the changes, and the third one will be reset. Save it, and back in the stats component, we can now create a new parameter. First, we will pass on the attribute points. So should it be value? Oh no, just attribute points, integer, and then one more parameter, which will be this new attribute update type enumerator, and this one will be update type. All right, and do we need to call it on the level up? Probably we should, yeah, because it changed. So on the level up, we're going to get this on attribute updated, and we're going to call it, even though technically doesn't need to be called in here because you shouldn't be leveling from inside the inventory. You should be leveling only when like player kills something, or I don't know, gather some things or stuff, so it will be outside of the inventory. So technically when you reopen the inventory it will update, but you never know, it's better to have it here. So just connect the attribute points, and update type here will be changed because we're just going to change the attribute points. Compile and save. And there will be one more function we have to create here, but we can create it after. So I kind of go in order as it is created. So now what we need to do is let's go to widgets and open inventory. So this is where we have all the stats. If you have it in different widgets, obviously just find this. So I've created some default ones. We can either remove like the attack speed and all this stuff and just keep the health, mana and stamina and then just add the attribute points, or you can just add the new ones. So find this vertical box, and what we have is the stats in the different borders. So we can just duplicate the last one, Control and D, and do it 3 times, Control and D and Control and D. Okay, so we got 3 different new stats. I don't have the icons just yet, I will add it after the video. So for strength, I'm just going to use one of those default ones. Where are you? This icon here. Dexterity, since there is a green smiley face or whatever that is. This one. And intelligence, I don't know. What else is there? This one here. Alright. This one we will rename to so armor value. This is strength value, and I'll change the color to red. Is that red? What have I just changed? I don't know. So red. This one will be dexterity value, and change it to right, okay, because I'm clicking directly. So change the green dexterity value, and this one will be intelligence value, and change it to, I don't know, light blue. There we go. So now we got these values. So now when we level up, we will have some text telling us that there are attribute points to spend. That's usually how it is in the games. You got some kind of like a warning that there is attribute points to spend. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to search for text. And again, find this canvas panel. Not canvas panel, sorry, this vertical box. And we're going to squeeze in text here on the beginning. And this text will be size 18 as well, or 20. Whatever is the rest of this, 20. So 20. And it will say something like attributes, assign attributes, and number, like how many attributes we have. Something like this. But we'll set it manually, so you don't have to write it here. Color and opacity, I'm going to do something that is quite easily noticeable, so something like yellowish, orangey. And then we also want to make it flash. So go to animation on the bottom, and I'm going to dock it in the layout, otherwise it keeps hiding every time you click on something. So dock it in layout, here click on a plus, this one will be flash. Select it, and with this text selected, which by the way is going to be assign attribute text, and is a variable. So with that selected, we're going to add assign attribute text. And then what I want to do is on frame 0, we're going to make alpha 0 and key it in. So press on this keyframe. Then on 1, we're going to change it to 1 and click on add keyframe. Then we're going to leave it on for like half a second. Add another keyframe, and then to 2.5 after another 1 second we're going to make it 0 again and add keyframe. So it will kind of be flashing, but we'll make this animation loop So we have done this, compile, and okay, attributes we have. So for this one, what we need to do is we need to actually check if we can display it, if it do have some attributes to points to spend. So we're going to just create custom event in the inventory, add custom event, and this one will be set attributes, something, set attributes. And here we're going to do branch, and we need to check, do we have a player reference here? Player reference we do. So since we have a player reference directly, we can again get stats component, and from stats component we're going to get attribute points, and if they are greater than 0, just move this branch. So if we do have some attributes points to spend, we need to make it visible, because we're going to hide it by default, which I forgot to do. So select this text again and do visibility hidden. We can close this animation tab. So make it hidden, and here we're going to get it again and set visibility visible. Otherwise we'll just leave it hidden. But that's not all. We also want to check how many attribute points we can assign, so we can set text. So from this we're going to set text, and here instead of append it's probably going to be better to format it, because we do have a variable and text, so it's might be easier. So format text, and here anything you put in the curly brackets will create as an input, so we need to create curly bracket text, curly bracket, then do space and curly bracket again, and this one will be value and curly brackets. So it will create text and value. For text we can make literal text, which will be assign attributes, and for value we will add the attribute points to the value, so how many we have. So assign attributes 5 or something. And then we want to also play animation. So play animation. And this needs to be from animations, this flash. And we will change this number loops to play to 0, which as you can read, it will loop indefinitely if you do that. Play mode forward. I'm just going to change the playback speed to 0.5, so it's flashing a little bit slower. Compile and save. And now, by default, we won't have attribute points, so this will be always hidden. But what we can do is go to player, go to combat graph, because I believe I do have some buttons here for testing. So I do have B button. I'm going to delete this, and I'm just going to call level up function and gain like 100 experience, because 50 is what I need for level 1, level 2. So this one will be experience, and leveling stat will be player level. So this will level up and give me some attribute points. And then, sorry, one more thing I forgot to do is in the inventory we actually need to call this set attributes on begin play. So here in the end on construct we're going to set attributes. Alright, play the game. Open the inventory, nothing is here, as you can see. But then when I press B, it says leveled up in the corner. And when I open it, now I got the flashing assign attributes. Alright, so it's quite visible. One thing I want to do, I want to offset it a little bit because it's too much on the border. So I'm going to go to designer. And again, you can style it yourself, but just some default thing. We're going to change the left padding to 10. Oh, not to 10, that's too much. 6, 5, 5. And then top, I'm going to change it to 10. Bottom, sorry. So the stats have a little bit space from it. So bottom 10, like that. So again, I'll level up. And yeah, that's much better. So assign attributes, and it's flashing. Okay, so the second part, that we're going to do here is we need to create some counter next to the stats that will say like how many attributes we assign and like little arrow that we can assign them. And then on the bottom, we're going to create some buttons that will be for committing or resetting the attributes point we have assigned. So first thing first, let's probably do the counter. That will have to be separate widget because I wanted to actually create it here, but then we would have to create it 3 different times, and settings will be like for each one we would have to do different ones. So instead we're just going to make it modular and create new widget. So right click, user interface, widget blueprint, user widget, and this one will be as attribute counter underscore widget. So attribute counter, open it up. Here we can just add overlay, we don't need to use canvas panel. And in this overlay, first we'll need to add text and then button. Text and button. And the text will just be numbers, so it will be how many attribute points we can assign or we assigned, so something like 10. And then this button, let's also change the text to 20 because that's what we have on the stats. So 20, and this button I'm going to offset left by 20, 20, 30. 30 is probably fine because then when I change the image, there is a arrow by default in an engine. So search for arrow, and it's this category arrow. That's not one of mine, that always was here. And then we're going to change this to border because to image because I don't want to have this overlay outline. So change it to image, and also do it for hovered. So image, search for this icon and assign it with this arrow, with this one as well to pressed, and pressed also needs to be image. And then we change the color to again something like orange, something like that, and copy the color, paste it here. Maybe I'll make it lighter, and then when it's pressed, I'll just do the same one as original or something. I think that will be fine. Again, style it as you want. And then maybe we can make it a little bit smaller because I think this image size is too big, so this will be 30, 30. That looks a little bit more on the level with this. Yeah, I think it's in the middle. And same here. What is it? Image size 30, 30. And image size 30, 30. Okay. So that's for the counter. Now we can rename this to count text is variable, and count button or whatever, count button. Okay. Both of them need to be variable, and then we go to graph, and here we need to create some variable as well. So we want to create first the attribute. So which attribute it will be assigned to. This one will be type stats. So we're calling it attribute, but it's technically a stat, you know. But it's saved in a stats enumerator, and then we make it instance editable so we can edit it. And then we also need a couple of the variables, which will be attribute points. We will get that from the stats component. And also we need to keep the count inside here, how many we actually assigning with the button. So this will be attribute count on this specific button. I know in stats component we created one, the assigned attribute, but I will be counting assigned attributes for all of these counters, so we can have multiple ones. Again, it will make a little bit more sense after. So we have this created. These ones needs to be integer and integer. They don't need to be instance editable. And basically what we want to do is when we click on this count button, we're going to do on click event, and then if we need to check if we do have some attributes points to spend, otherwise we don't want to obviously be clicking on it. So let's get the stats component. We will get it from player controller, then we will get control pawn, So again, this is the way to do it without casting. So you get player controller, control pawn, which is a player, because that is the one we're controlling. And from there we can get stat component, get component by class. Get component by class, the single one, and this is stats component. Probably we should maybe make it a variable on the begin on construct. Yeah, let's delete tick and pre-construct. And let's make it a variable because we will be binding dispatcher to this. So it's better if you don't have to get it like in this way. So promote it to variable. This one will be stats component on construct. And then from stats component, we want to get attribute points, get attribute points. And then we also get promoted to, no, not promoted, but set it to our variable, which is attribute points. So same name, I'll set it. On begin play, we will have the actual count. And then we also want to set visibility of the whole widget. So we're going to set visibility depending of if we have some attribute points. So from here, we'll do select and check if attribute points is greater than 0. And if it is, so on true, we'll make it visible. If it's false, we'll make it hidden. Okay, compile and save. Then also we have created a dispatcher in the stats component, which is on attribute updated. So we're going to bind it. So from the stats component, we can get it here. And we're going to bind event on attribute updated. This one here, attribute updated. And then for event, we're going to drag out create event, and here create matching event, which will be update attributes. Okay, for now leave it as it is. First we're going to change the counter when we click. So here we will do branch, and we're just going to check if this attribute points is greater than 0. And if it is, we're going to get attribute count. Attribute count, so this will be the actual counter, what it's going to display on that number text, on this one here. So attribute count, we will do +1, because we only have one arrow, we don't have arrow that will go minus. Instead of that, we can reset it. So +1, and we'll set attribute count. And then we also want to set it into text. So we will get attribute count text, or just count text, this one here, and set text. And it will be just this attribute count. And then we also want to now go to stats component. And as I said, we were going to have to create one more function which will remove one attribute point. And instead, so we will remove one attribute point from the ones that we have to spend, so from these attribute points, but it will add it to the assign attributes. Because then if we want to reset it, we need to remember how many we have assigned. Okay, so let's create a function that will be something like modify attribute points. And then for these modify attribute points, what we can do first, let me just quickly double check so I don't mess it up again. Okay, so for attribute points, I think it needs to have an input of value, so integer and value. So how are we going to modify the points? At the moment, we can only like subtract technically like the attribute point from it, so it will be like -1. But later on, at some point, when we actually have the stats widget, the whole stats widget with all the stats and everything, we might actually be using +1 and -1 as well. So for now, it will only be -1. So we will get attribute points and we will add to it. So it doesn't matter if it's positive value or negative value, it will still count it correctly. And then we're going to clamp it, just in case, clamp integer between 0. so we don't go to minus values, and maximum 1000 or something. I don't know how many maximum you can have, but I wouldn't worry about it. 1000 is fine if you want to be safe at 10,000. And then set this to attribute points. So these are the attribute points we will have left. And then we're just going to call on attribute updated. So order 2 widgets, because we will have 3 of these attribute counter, or if you have multiple attributes you want to be adding to, you can have like 6 different ones. All of them need to be updated as well with a new count. So we will call on attribute updated. Update type will be change, because we're just changing the number, and attribute points will be this one here. And then after, as I said, we want to keep the count of these assigned attributes. So we're going to check if the value here is less than 0. So if it's -1, because that's what we're doing, but this is just to prevent some stuff. So if it's -1 basically, then we're going to get attributes assigned attributes, and we're going to add to it, and we need to this time multiply this value by -1, because this will be negative value. So we'll need to multiply this by -1 so it's positive, and then we can add it to assign attributes, so it will count how many we have assigned, and then set it. I hope it kind of makes sense, but I know it's a bit complicated. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So now we're keeping count of assigned attributes, and we're actually updating how many we have assigned and modifying it, and this should already actually count our attributes. So let's test it out with, we haven't added it yet, my bad. So let's go to inventory, and here just click on this strength, and to this canvas panel we need to add that attribute counter. So to this canvas panel, and we need to anchor it to the right side, so hold Ctrl and Shift and click, right side in the middle. And then as you can see, it's overlapping a little bit, even though it won't, because there is only like whatever up to 100 strength value. So we can still change it to 50, 60, 70. I think 70 looks fine. And then I'm going to duplicate, or like copy it, Ctrl and C, and go to this canvas panel for dexterity, paste it. We just need to anchor it again, so hold Ctrl and Shift and click, and then do the same thing to this canvas panel, paste it, and anchor it. Okay, so we do have a counter. Now, visibility we have set up to hidden if it's, okay, so we're checking also if you don't have attributes, so it will hide it. So play the game. Open this, as you can see, nothing is here, no attribute counter or anything, but when I press B to level up, suddenly I have this counter here, although it says 10, so I need to change that to 0, and assign attributes, we still have 3 attributes to assign. Now when I change this, it will assign 1, okay, because first one was 0, so it's changed it to 1, 2, and 3. 4, 5, 6, but I can go as many as I want, because we don't actually checking how many attributes we have, I believe, or maybe we should. Okay, so at the moment there is few issues. So first let's change the fact that in the beginning it says 10. So that is just here, I'm going to change it to 0, or we can update the count manually, but this one 0 is better. And then okay, so counter, we're not modifying it yet. So we have connected the stats component. We need to call the modify attribute points. And here we're modifying them by -1, because we're removing 1 every time we add it to this count. And that will actually prevent us from going past the ones we have. So level up, I'll level up 3 times. I have 9 attribute points. And there we go, I can keep assigning. As you can see, this counter is still not changing, so we need to do that as well. But I should not be able to do more than 9. Well, apparently I am. So something is not correct with the way that we update it. Ah, right, because we have not updated it here. So on update attributes, that's from the event dispatcher. We will do switch on this update type. And what we want to do is basically on the three different things. On change, we're just going to change the attribute points, set it to this one here. That's on change. On commit and reset, we will set it up later because for now we don't have it. So now it will also update these attribute points. So we wouldn't have attribute points to spend. So again, I'm going to level up this time only once. And 1, 2, 3. And I can't go anymore, as you can see. Okay, I can't add any here. I can't add any here. So it's adding. What I want to do also is I want to remove count from here as well. So that's not updating. So let's go to inventory. We need to bind that event dispatcher as well. So in the construct, we already have a stats component. So we just need to bind event on attribute updated. And we're going to again create event, create matching event, and this one will be update attributes. And same thing, we're just going to switch. And attribute points, we don't have a counter here, we just need to what do we need to do here? I think even before, because we will do it on all of the commit and reset. Before this, we will do assign attribute text and set text to, we will just copy the formatting here, this one, copy and paste it, and the value will be attribute points. So assign attributes and attribute points. And then on change, we need to just, so if we change some attributes, that just means we probably have added them. So we will just change the visibility of this assign attribute text visibility to visible. So change and visible, just in case. Rest of it we will leave for now. Okay, so compile and save. And now that should be updating as well. So I don't have any attributes, press B, level up. And then I got 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Right. I would probably change the fade out to be a little bit less time, because I don't see it for quite a long time. But this is working fine, the attributes, so we can't assign anymore. And now what we want to do is we just want to add 2 buttons, which will be commit, that will commit the changes that we have done here, or reset, that will reset the attributes, reset these counters, and just give the attributes back to assign attributes. So for that, let's go to attributes, to inventory. I'm going to create one more, this time horizontal box, and we will add it here into vertical box because we need 2 buttons. So find this original vertical box and search for horizontal box, and we're just going to add it to vertical box. Just drag it on top of it so it will add it in the bottom. So this horizontal box, and this one will be attribute button box. Is a variable, so we can hide it as well. And this one will be probably hidden by default. So visibility hidden. And then we want to add 2 buttons. So button, add it to this attribute box, and one more button, add it to this one again. First one will be reset button, reset button. Second one will be, oh sorry, first one let's do commit. So commit button. Second one will be reset button. Reset button. Alright, we got both. And now we're going to fill on both of them. So set it to fill. And we just need to set padding to like 10. 10 on this one. And then I'm going to do, on the first one, I'm going to do left side like 30. So it's smaller. 30 is fine. On this one, I'm going to do right side 30. So they're close together, but not too big. Okay, so these will be the buttons, and they also need to have a text. They don't need to be variables. It just need to say commit with like 16, 14. Needs to be centered, yeah. So 14 size, and needs to be justification to center. And then I'm going to copy this text, paste it into this reset button, and this one will be reset. Okay, and again, I'm just going to make them like orange because obviously we want to know it's associated with all the stats and everything else. So just make it orange and copy it, paste it to this one, and paste it to Prest as well. And this reset. I'm not going to style it here because it takes forever and this video is already very long, so let's just finish it. So just leave it as it is, commit and reset. And now what we want to do is on the graph. So when we actually click on these two buttons, we will have to do two different functions in a stats component as well. So first one will be commit attributes, and the second one will be reset attributes. That's it. In commit attributes, we just need to basically open it up, and then we need to get this attribute assigned. And since we're committing them, that means we need to, these assigned attributes we need to reset to 0. We don't have any assigned anymore because we have committed them. And we're going to get attribute points and call on attribute updated. And this one will be commit because we're committing the change. That's for commit. And for reset, here what we need to do is just get attributes assigned. And since we're resetting it, we need to return them back to the attribute points. So we're going to do plus add to attribute points and set attribute points from it. So all of the ones that we have assigned and removed, we're returning back. And then we're going to again call this on attribute updated. This time we're resetting. And attribute points will go here. And then we also want to do attribute assigned to 0 because we have returned the count and reset it. So it needs to be 0. Compile and save. And now back in the inventory. Where are these two buttons? So reset button, let's do commit button first. Or just click on clicked, and commit button on clicked. So commit button, how are we gonna call it? We do have player reference. So from player reference, we'll get stats component and commit attributes and reset attributes. Okay, so basically from here, from the inventory, when we click on that button, it will call from the stats component, but from the stats component, we have it bound even in our attribute counter, so everything will update, everything that it will know to actually update. So now if we're committing or if we're resetting, we can finish up these update attributes here, because here we basically also need to do something on reset and commit. So on the commit, as I said, we're hiding this, we're making this visible, but also we want to make that button visible, the horizontal box with the buttons, which is attribute buttons or something. Yeah, attribute button box. copy this at visibility and make it visible. And then on commit, we want to check, so branch, we want to check if we still have some attribute points to spend or if we spend all of them. So if the attribute points is greater than 0, we don't do anything because these things will be already visible. But if it's false, we need to just get these two things and we need to hide them. So the text and the buttons, and we will hide them. Compile and save. So this is for the inventory, and for the attribute counter, we basically need to do something similar, but on the change, we'll just assign attribute points. On the commit, we need to commit those points that we assigned. So we need to get the stats that we have, the attribute, get attribute that we have set with the instance editable variable. This is the one that's in the inventory, in the designer. Did we set it actually? I forgot if we did. No, we didn't. So I exposed this variable. I made it instance editable. So here on this counter, you need to change it, assign it to the stat that you want to change. So this one is in the strength, so it will be strength. This one here is in the dexterity, so it will be in dexterity. And this one is in intelligence, so it will be intelligence. If you have more, obviously you can change it here because it's instance editable. And now in the attribute counter, we know what attribute we want to commit to. So all we have to do is from commit to modify max stat. We won't be able to access it here. We need a stats component. So get stats component and modify max stat. Commit, and it's this stat, and we're modifying it by the attribute count. So how many we actually committed to this one. So that will modify strength, dexterity, or intelligence. And then we want to do another branch. And again, check if the attribute points is greater than 0. And if it is, we'll probably do two different things here. So let's do false first. So if it's false, we're just going to hide the whole widget. So set visibility to hidden. So this will hide the whole widget if you leave it at self. And then we're going to get this attribute count, set it, and set it from here to 0. But on true we will continue here as well because we will need to do the same thing. So this will only be on false. I probably made a mess out of it, but this is how it is connected. And then we also want to set the actual text. So we will get the count text and set text to this attribute count, which will be 0 obviously. And then one more thing is on reset, we resetted the thing. So committed attributes, which is the attribute count, we need to set to 0. Wait, hold on. Or is it attributes to assign? If we reset it, no, sorry. So if we reset it, we need to get the attribute points. Sorry, this is a little bit confusing. So we need to get the attribute points and update them because again, we have the full count. And then we need to get this attribute counts to 0 and set text. So this will continue from all of the branches. And I think that's pretty much it. Let me see. So now, if I start the game, I have these stats are still not being set. So that's one thing that we haven't done. So on the inventory graph, find where we're setting all the stats, display stats. I need to move it because it will be overlapping with that thing. So let's move it down. And then what we want to do is copy this whole part, which is set max stat. Copy and paste. 3 times actually. So 1, 2, and 3. And first one will be, what happened to the details panel in the inventory? Am I being dumb? Third person blueprints. Let me try to reopen it. Inventory widget, where are you? Window. What am I missing? My blueprint. Yeah, okay, my blueprint. So I don't know how I hid it, but it's my blueprint. And then here we need to get strength value. Strength, that's stamina. Strength value, connect it and change this to strength. We're just setting that stat. This one is dexterity value. And set it to dexterity. And last one is intelligence value. Intelligence value. And set it to intelligence. Okay, let's see now. So level up. I got 3 points to spend. 1 in strength, 2 in strength, 1 in dexterity. I got 0. I can't do any more anywhere. If I reset, this changes to 0, 0, 0. I still got 3 attributes to spend, and I can spend them again. Reset again, 3 attributes. Reset again, spend them in intelligence. But if you commit, that's it. So I do 2 here and 1 here. I commit. There we go. I got 102 strength, 11 intelligence. This disappeared because I don't have any more attributes. If I level up again and just commit 1 attribute, I should already just assign 1. So this is 11, but this is still flashing because I still have 2 attributes to spend. Commit 13, and that is working as intended. So now if I level up, I don't know how many times, 10 times. Let's see if the attributes are working correctly. So I have something with the bow dexterity. So it's got 18 plus 5 damage. So it's scaling with dexterity. I'm going to add all the points to dexterity, commit. And I got 18 plus 13. So I got 8 extra damage for those points I invested in dexterity on the bow. So as you can see, that's working fine. It's being committed. One last thing we need to do is, I think, wait, let me level up again. If I open it and like commit the points and close the inventory and reopen, it hides because it never resetted the points. So it disappeared basically. I lost the points. So what we need to do is when we close the inventory, we need to reset. So we closing the inventory where? Inside the interface, I think. So inside the interface, is it on key down? It's probably on key down. Yeah, we're closing the widget. So before we close the widget, we're going to get player reference. We have it here. Get stance component. This is probably not the correct one, because this is all something different. Doesn't matter. I'll just reset the layout. And get stats component here and reset attributes. And that should work here. So that's in the interface. And now if I level up, commit all the attributes, close the inventory and reopen, I still got 6. Alright, so hopefully there are no more issues. Well, obviously if you find some, then just let me know and we'll fix it, but this is it. Sorry this video was so long, but I didn't want to split it into different parts because yeah, I didn't know where would be the halfway point, so I'll just release it as it is. So cool, hope you like this one and I'll see you in the next. Bye.